Let's talk about power Googling. So you probably use Google every day. Most of us do, right? You tap something into your phone, or you type it into your computer, or you speak it to a home device, an Alexa or Google Home or something like that. Power Googling is an extension or an expansion of your existing search abilities. We've all become good at using search engines, and search engines have become better, right? So it's rare. I mean, 10 years ago, you could search for something and it would be like, no results, no good results found, right, to match that query. Nowadays, that very rarely happens because Google can guess a lot of what you mean. The challenge of Google guessing what you mean is that you often get results that are not quite aligned with what you were looking for. And if you're using Google for something more serious than finding an Indian restaurant, you want to make sure that you understand how to command Google in a way that gives you the results that you want. So I'm going to walk you through what power Googling is today. And our discussion is going to be based on an article that was written on our blog by Sanders, who's one of my technical writers. He's fantastic. I strongly recommend that you go to our blog. We actually have 7 blogs, which is probably excessive, but you can sign up to get notified, on the blogs, the type of blogs and the blog content that you like the most. And it's a really good resource, team of professional writers and marketers, lots of great insights there, fully recommended, obviously. So what I want to talk to you about today is how to kind of increase your ability to Google with effectiveness, to Google effectively, to make sure that you get results that are not just based on historical results, but to make sure that you understand how to play the Google game so that as you are researching and as you are doing deeper work in your marketing or writing life, you're able to get results that actually enrich and actually inform and actually are the most useful, okay? So the two kind of critical preliminary ideas and principles that are at work in power Googling is that first, word order matters. So the way that you phrase something matters. It starts with the highest importance word or phrase to the least important word or phrase. And we'll talk in just a second about how you tell Google not to mix your words up, okay? Because you can. But that is very important. So you're going to craft searches when you do power Googling rather than just kind of off the top of your head what you're thinking in a given moment. And word order matters for that, okay? The second big kind of preliminary consideration is that less means more. So the idea of power Googling is not the same as like being a prompt engineer for AI, right? Where you're stringing together this incredibly elaborate and important and nuanced series of phrases or words. You want to shorten it as much as possible to keep it clear, okay? Because you're not just trying to get a wide variety. When do you need to use power Googling? Let's just talk about that for 1 second and then we'll dive in. You need to use power Googling when you need answers to multi-dimensional questions, okay? And Sanders gives a fantastic example that exactly illustrates what I just said. And that is this. So let's say, for instance, that you wanted to find information on building tiny homes in the North Carolina area. There are 3 dimensions to that. First is an action, building. Second is an object, tiny homes, a very specific type of structure, right? And the third is a region. So if you were going, just imagine for a second, like if you were going in to try to do a local SEO play for a client, most of the things that you would find if you just Googled building tiny homes in North Carolina would probably be, if you just use your logic, general contractors, maybe some how-to blogs, maybe a lot of commercial intent. So if you were trying to research it and to get information that was really truly useful, you would probably fall prey to the fact that most search phrases at this point in our history of SEO, having been around for 25 years, most search phrases that have high commercial intents are incredibly competitive and they've been hijacked. Okay, so there's a long list. If you go, now there aren't any pages in Google anymore, but if you just scroll, you'll often get through 10, 15, 20 before you find something that's meaningful. Power Googling helps you avoid that. That helps you avoid kind of having to sift through a whole bunch of results that you can tell have been kind of gamified by, an SEO expert somewhere who's flooded the internet with certain very rich, search-friendly content. Okay, we have our opinions about that. You want to bypass that. You want to be able to get to the point faster, and you can do that by giving Google more specific commands. So you would shortlist that and say, objectively, that's what I'm looking for, building tiny homes in North Carolina. But what you want to think about then is synonyms. So for instance, you would think about like tiny homes, tiny houses. Those are two different ways of saying the same thing. North Carolina, or you could think of something like the Carolinas, which is a colloquialism that's used to describe North and South Carolina. Okay. Instead of building, you could think of construction. So you can think of, building tiny homes in North Carolina could potentially give you a bunch of YouTube videos of like DIY, build your own tiny home kind of deals, right? If you want to think of construction. So begin to think about the nuances of how you phrase things. And one of the most powerful ways to get better at power Googling, and even to get better at like AI prompts and anytime that you're interacting with indexed content, is to be observational. So listen and read a lot of different writers and speakers from different areas of the country and different areas of the world, okay? Because people speak differently in different areas. They use different word order. Depending on if English is their first or second language, they're going to word things differently. So there's a great deal of mastery and skill development that can come just by simply paying attention, right, to how people in certain areas will word things. That's especially powerful if you're doing a local SEO play. So I would definitely just recommend that you perk up and listen closely when people talk, because it will give you an edge. All right, trigger commands. So once you have your short list of key phrases that you're going to have, Google serve up to you, and you feel pretty confident that they meet the brief and they are going to, deliver to you what you want to tell Google specifically the type of content you want. And this is an important element of power Googling because it clears out some of the clutter. As you probably already know, Google categorizes key phrases by intent, right? So it will give you commercial key phrases, it'll give you instructional or informational key phrases, transactional key phrases. If you look at any keyword analysis tool, you'll see that categorization. You want to kind of try to bypass that, okay? Because that's like child's play. That's very simple, and it is also very much gamed by SEO experts out there. So you want to try to kind of bypass that and tell Google more specifically the type of content that you're looking for, regardless of the type of key phrases that you're using, okay? And what the categories of those are. For instance, if you're looking for data, you may want to put the word data or statistics in your query. Trends, reports, outcomes, figures. I use the word research a lot. So if I want to try to find like something from Google Scholar or ResearchGate or NCBI, or like I'm searching for an article for an actual source, I'll use the word research a lot as a way to kind of force Google to give me a specific set of results. That's pretty important to me. So think through what type of content you want delivered to you and then specify that at some point in the phrase that you would be power Googling, okay? So remember, you're going from order of highest importance to lowest importance, so that would be probably closer to the end because it's not actually related to the nature of the content itself. Other than that, it is dictating what content type you are seeing. Okay, so we've got our short list of key phrases, we've got trigger commands, and then we're going to talk about phrasing and connectors. So part of power Googling is being able to string these things together in a meaningful way. Okay, we already talked about how like highest importance to lowest importance and some of that order stuff, but I want to make sure you kind of think through the way that you're ordering it and that you are using things that we know give Google a more specific parameters. For instance, if you want to search for an exact term, so Google almost always, did you mean, right? You'll get all the search results and it's like, did you mean X? That's good for somebody like me because I mistype stuff all the time, but it can muddy the results if you're looking for something very specific. Place it in quotation marks. If you put it in quotation marks, Google will not veer from the order that you created, okay? So he gives a really good example that just kind of helps you understand. And then we're going to talk about connectors for a second. So the words and or. So and is a default, okay? It's automatically added between a lot of key phrases, okay? And so if you want to add it yourself, you can put it in and put it in caps. Now, or is a little bit different. If you are, I'll mention, if you're in like the PPC game and you do a lot of keyword research in PPC, some of those skills actually transfer to this. You probably realize that already, which is kind of cool. So think about using the word and if you want to, for sure, connect two key phrases, okay? Those need to be connected. And the other is or. So when you deliver up or, it's a little bit different in that Google requires at least one of the key words to appear in a return result. So it's not going to give you a synonym, it's going to give you an exact match. Again, that PPC thing you probably recognize, right? Just the concept of using exact match, okay? So that is, he's going to give you a little bit more example on, how to do logical strings and how to do some of these, connector phrases in order to power Google your way into an accurate result. Okay. I would strongly recommend you go read this, and he talks a little bit about credibility, he talks a little bit about sourcing, he gives you a lot of good examples, but I'm going to end with just kind of throwing some hot tips your way as far as, getting your power Googling chops. And those are, first of all, you can find related sites by using related. Sometimes you'll be researching an article and you'll be like, found one really good resource, but I can't find anything else, right? This may be a good way, using the actual word related, to find something similar, okay, that Google would associate. You can get wildcard search results, so by using an asterisk for any given term. So if you're experimenting, if you're trying to discover something new, Google is not usually a good place to do that, right? It's actually pretty hard to discover something new on Google because there's a lot of reasons, but you can use an asterisk, and that may help you find something off the beaten path, which would be helpful. It may be that you're searching for subject matter that has maybe some sensitive subjects or that is conflated with some other search terms. You can use a minus sign before the term that you don't want to show up in your search results. So that can help with some of the bias factors, because as you probably know, Google tailors your experience, which unfortunately can result in a lot of confirmation bias when you're studying and researching. So using a minus sign can kind of help you get away from some of that. You can search date ranges by using the formula year and the 4 digits of the year. You can use exact matches, okay, so there's an actual command for that, and then you can use links, or use this command here, link site name, to find pages that link to a site. So obviously that is useful for SEO research, and if you're doing, any kind of, trying to find related content, it has a lot of uses. So those are just some quick tips to kind of help you, some things that you can experiment with. What I would recommend you go do right now is obviously read the article, because I think that there's a lot more information in here than I covered in this conversation, but I think that it will help you kind of understand what are your options for power Googling, what are your options for getting more specific to Google, and so that it serves you the results that you're looking for. And then, subscribe to the blog, subscribe to my channel. I'm here, I'm happy to help, and I hope that you power Google it up and are successful.